Hi, Dan Brzezowski here today with a great power-packed muscle building, bodybuilding without steroid meal for you. It's packed with plenty of complex carbs, fibrous carbs, and complete proteins for muscle building. Check this out. I guarantee you'll love it, and it's easy to make. Okay, simple step number one, get yourself some good meat, good steak. If you're not going to use steak, get yourself some like 96, 98% lean beef. I use Laura's lean ground beef if I do that, or from my supplier, or just get any kind. This right here is just a rib steak left over from, I usually have a half a cow cut up for me every year, non-steroid, free range, and I happen to have this rib steak left over. So I brown it up, and after I brown it up real good, I'm going to cut off all the fat. I'll leave the bone in there as I'm cooking for flavor, but I'll end up cutting off all the fat and cutting up the beef into chunks to put into the soup. So step number one, take whatever beef you're using and brown it up, get it cooked. If you're using burger, 96, 98% lean, something like that. If you're using a type of a steak, doesn't matter what it is, just if you're using something like this, like a rib steak like I have, cut the fat off after it's browned, alright? Step number one. Great. Okay, so while your meat's browning, and remember your beef is going to be where you get your complete protein from. That's your muscle building source. Next thing you're going to need is you're going to need a type of a liquid for it. So get yourself Campbell's tomato juice, and if you can get a low sodium, if you have a sodium problem, get low sodium. If not, get a can of Campbell's tomato juice, and that'll be your base, your liquid for it. For seasoning, I have a Pampered Chef type of oregano leaves and so on and so forth, and I like garlic, so I add garlic powder in there also. Now, my starchy carbohydrate's going to come from potato, 1, 2, however many you want. I've got one here, and I've also got barley. I love barley in mine, so I'm going to get some starchy, some heavier carbs in there besides the fiber that's in there, and I'm going to use fresh green beans, fresh scallions, fresh mushrooms, and fresh tomatoes. If you can use everything fresh, or get yourself a bag or two of fresh frozen mixed vegetables and do that. I have a store right by me with fresh vegetables, so I go up there and get as much as I can when I can as fresh. Step number two, combine all these together. Cut off the ends, slice them up, we'll put them in the pan next, okay? Okay, so as you can see, after I brown my steak, I cut the majority of the fat off. You don't need it in there. Cut it off, get rid of it. I cut all the veggies and everything and put it all together in the pan. And notice I leave the bones in there with some meat on there because the bones will flavor it, especially if you leave it sitting in the refrigerator for days after you cook it. A lot of times I'll cook mine up and freeze them up right away. Sometimes I let it set in the refrigerator for a couple of days, let it season itself up. I do that. Also, a lot of people don't put the barley in till the end, but because I just want to get it cooking and leave it, forget about it, I put the barley in right away. So I got beans, tomatoes, barley, mushrooms, steak. Next thing I do is I add my tomato juice in there. Again, either no sodium, I'm sorry, you can't get no sodium that I know of. Low sodium, if you have a sodium problem, not here. Now, if you want the consistency of it, to be more watery, soupy, just add to it. But from your vegetables, especially your mushrooms and that, and your tomatoes, they'll make it a soupier soup anyway. And you notice my tomatoes are large cut. That's because I give it to the kids too, and they don't like the tomatoes. So if I have large cut things, they don't like it. I make sure it doesn't go into their soup bowl. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is cook it. Okay, so be sure that you add the flavorings that you want, whether it's garlic powder, garlic salt, oregano. It really doesn't matter. Just season it to your taste. I like to take mine, put it on the range, and I set it on high first. I set it on high till I get it boiling. Once I get it boiling, I stir it a little bit. I set it down to a medium low, and I'll let it simmer there for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. Just very, very slow, low cooking. If your meat's pre-cooked all the way, it takes less time. But again, I like to leave it on there on a real low heat for a long time, so that way all the ingredients mixed together, and it seasons it better. And then remember, if you let it set after that in the refrigerator for a day or two, it'll even be tastier. Anyway, it's chock full of vitamins, proteins, minerals, carbs, everything that's good for you. Get a free book at bodybuildingwithoutsteroids.com. If there's a recipe you want to know, or a recipe you have that you want me to put on tape, just send it to me and I'll do that. Also, please go to bodybuildingwithoutsteroids.com and or Facebook at bodybuildingwithoutsteroids.com is on Facebook also, and give me a like, okay? Thanks. Have a Power Health day.